Hello and welcome to this short online video about communication in families. This video lecture is meant to be an accompaniment to Chapter 12, Creating Communication Competence. My name is Jason Stone and I'm your instructor for this brief video lesson. A great place to start in our discussion of communication in families is by defining various definitions of family. We're going to look at three different types of definitions of family. The first is a structural definition, and that type of definition tends to emphasize biological or legal sorts of ways of defining a family. The second is a task-oriented type of definition. And these definitions recognize that behaviors like emotional and financial support are more important indicators of family or familial relations than biology. And the third type of definition that we're going to look at is a transactional definition, and that's concerned more with the quality of interactions and focused on creating a sense of home or group identity, loyalty, and a shared past and future. As you can well imagine, the structural type of family is what we typically associate more with like traditional nuclear families. Task-oriented families can be potentially blended families, or the transactional model might even include individuals who are not actually related, but choose to live together as a family. As we drill down a little bit further into some of these definitions, let's look at a couple of subsets of structural definitions of family. The first has to do with family of origin. This again emphasizes those bloodlines, traditional legal bonds such as marriage and or adoption, and typically tends to include folks that we would usually associate with a family: parents, grandparents, siblings, aunts, uncles, nieces, and nephews. The second type of subset of a structural definition of family is a family of orientation, and that refers to people who share the same household and are connected by blood, legal bond, or who act and live as if they are connected by either. Represents the type of family makeup that we choose. In other words, it's not the family that you're born into, but maybe it's the family that you choose. This next slide explores some different sub-definitions of family of orientation. We had essentially a number of different sort of subsets of structural families in the previous slide. So a nuclear family is your traditional heterosexual married parents with one or more children. A binuclear family is a nuclear family that was split by divorce into two separate households, one typically headed by a mother or the other headed by the father. More recent sort of takes on this have included same-sex couple orientations as well. Single parent families are mothers or fathers who may or may not have been previously married to a mother or father, and there is one or more children in that family. A step family includes a couple that lives together with children from a previous relationship, and a cohabitating family is a couple that lives together in a committed relationship, and they may or may not have children. All of these are different examples of families of orientation. Your text also mentions the fact that intergenerational communication is primarily learned in your family. And that is the first place where communication with people who are from a different generation typically occurs. And some of those intergenerational communication patterns can be developed in your family of origin. This next slide deals with defining family time and why that's important. How we structure time together as a family definitely dictates what our familial norms are, what our familiar customs are. Organizational theorists define organizational theory sort of loosely as how we do things around here. And family culture can take on very similar sort of facets of that definition. It's how the family does things in this household. So family cultures are shaped and, in fact, even created by interaction routines and rituals, and those interactions create family communication climates. We have four graphics here to the right. We have a birthday cake, we have a wonderful plate of food, we have a couple that's getting married, and then we have a large family that's posed for a family picture at their family reunion. These are all patterned interactions. Patterned interactions include Mealtime, bedtime, receiving guests at the house, and or leisure activities. It can also include things like assigned seating at the dinner table, or is there an easy chair that belongs to one or the other of some member of the household. Do you have a special chair maybe that's been bought for a young person? Sometimes children are really excited when they get a chair that's made just for them. It's all of those things. Those are patterned interactions. It can also include things like receiving guests to the house. It might include mealtime and or bedtime. Typically, in a lot of families, one of the spouses will clean up after dinner, or kind of do some housework or some light chores, and the other family member may take charge in putting the children in the bath and getting them cleaned up and maybe reading them a story and trying to get them to lay down and go to sleep for the evening. All of those things are patterned interactions. How we persistently and repeatedly interact in those situations is essentially what our patterned interactions as a family are. Family traditions are a little bit more formal and they occur less frequently. They vary widely from family to family. Family traditions include birthdays, family reunions, and family vacations. Family traditions, in ways of a birthday. In my family for years, we would post this banner that said "Happy Birthday." There would be a birthday cake. There would be some presents, and pretty much that was something that all members of the family got pretty much on their birthday. Family vacations were a little bit less frequently, but you do have an opportunity to access family traditions. In my family, with my brothers, my brother hosts karaoke at various bars here in the metro area. And my two brothers will sometimes come and visit, and we'll go to one of those shows. If one of us is there and kind of joins my brother, then we usually don't sing the song. But if either my dad or me, or my dad or my other little brother happen to join my little brother at his karaoke show, we always make it a point to sing the song "Family Tradition." And I guess singing family tradition is our family tradition. Finally, family celebrations. These are more formal and they don't vary. Like your family tradition may not be to sing family tradition. It may not even be to go to bars and to sing, but it is our family tradition. A family celebration tends to be more formal and it looks more similar across different families. For the most part, a family reunion looks the same. We're all going to get together. There's going to be some outside activities. The old folks are going to get together inside and swap stories and get out a bunch of pictures. And the young folks are going to get to know each other through play outdoors. And that's pretty much how most family reunions are organized. There's lots of food, there's lots of time to socialize, and there's lots of time for shared activities, and typically, for fairly rigorous physical activities. Those family celebrations help to transmit values, and they share memories through generations. They may even include family celebrations may even include things like rites of passage, things that would happen at potentially a quinceañera or a bar mitzvah, and weddings are certainly a family celebration. So also how we get together and celebrate things like Thanksgiving is also a family celebration. And of course that's salient as we approach Turkey Day. This last slide has to do with two important variables that have a lot to do as far as dictating what the overall communication climate in the family looks like. Does the family have a high orientation towards conformity or a low orientation towards conformity? And does the family have a high orientation towards conversation or a low orientation towards conversation? So let's go ahead and start there with the blue corner in the top left of the rectangle. We have high conversation, low conformity, and that equals a pluralistic family. In other words, we are going to talk about whatever quite a bit, but we don't all have to agree. but we are going to hash it out, and we're going to discuss it quite a bit. These families tend to be fairly tolerant of dissent, and everything doesn't have to be completely the same. We don't have to always agree on everything. There's some tolerance for disagreement. The orange box in the top right-hand corner is high conversation and high conformity. In other words, we want to talk about it until we're all on the same page. And essentially, they refer to that as a consensual sort of family. Everyone is agreeing to participate in the communication, and everyone is coming out in a similar spot with regard to endorsement of action items and thoughts and values. The purple box in the lower left-hand corner there is low conversation and low conformity. In other words, laissez-faire is a French term, which basically just means, live and let live. That there's not going to be a whole lot of conformity, but there's also not going to be a whole lot of conversation. So there's not a lot of coordinating between family members, and there's not really an expectation that we all do things the same way, or that we're all dressed the same way, or that we all see things from a similar perspective. That as opposed to the low conversation and high conformity family, which is often referred to as a protective family. In that type of a situation, there is very little talk. There's typically kind of a dictatorial parent. If you have a family that has more traditional kind of gender roles, you may have one parent who's really dictating how things are in the house, and maybe because that person has high earning power, or because that person is perceived as really smart, or kind of the glue that holds the family together, everyone defers to that sort of vision, and conforms to that type of a vision. So you have the four different types of families: pluralistic, consensual, laissez-faire, and protective. And for the most part, those four different types of families are dictated based on orientations towards conformity. Do we all have to see the thing from the same perspective? And conversation. Do we have a lot of words associated with something before we can arrive at some type of an agreement about what that thing is? These are the primary things that you need to be aware of in terms of communication in families. And if you'll pay close attention to some of the bold-faced terms in your book, you get a little bit more insight as to how all of these are useful. The bottom line is the family is changing a lot. It has changed so much in the last 20 years. There's been almost a 400% increase in single-parent homes in the last 20 years. This is reflected in any number of ways, including in the dominant media of our time. Shows like Modern Family are a great example of that. It's a really great sort of depiction of how these pluralistic, consensual, protective, and laissez-faire families sort of exist, and they're all kind of demonstrated there in one show. I want to hear more about your thoughts about these different types of families. If you can identify one of the families from Modern Family or from another sitcom, and place them someplace in those four quadrants, I'd love to hear about those comments in the comments section. Take care of yourself, have a great day, and communicate well with one another.